Hey, what's up, Lock 22 Nation? It's your boy GOBO, and this is the premiere episode of Puck University, hashtag PuckU. Once again, my name's GOBO Moran, and I am an unlicensed sports pundit. All with me, as always, is my new partner, Mr. Tom Mitchell. Tom, say hi to the folks.
Hey, welcome everybody to Puck University. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. So this is our first ever episode. So if you have any critiques or any kind of we are looking at different format methods, and so we're trying to figure it out as we go. So please feel free if you think that something could run a little bit smoother, or if there's other information, other hockey stuff that you're looking for, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will make the reasonable attempts to try to fit along with that. So that being said, a lot going on in hockey this week. We got our trade deadline coming up on Friday. We've got a bunch of trades already. I got a list of news stories that I'd like to cover, but Tom, like, what's one thing that's sticking out in your head right now as of hockey news stuff, going on?
Well, obviously, the biggest thing right now in hockey, probably around everywhere, is the Patrick Kane trade news. Basically, healthy scratch. So obviously, something's going on there. Um, that's probably my number one pick right there.
Absolutely. I think that's a great segue into our first news story, and that is speculation around the legendary Stanley Cup champion, captain of the assistant captain. I forgot Taves is the captain of the Blackhawks. Patrick Kane, generational talent. He's coming to the end of his career, and the Blackhawks have scratched him out of the most recent game. Sounds like he's going to New York. Sounds like the Rangers are really they're the only team that's made the amount of cap room space to get him on the roster, and they're also kind of in that division. They're kind of making a push. Veteran leadership like Patrick Kane could get them over the hump. I don't know, Tom. What are your thoughts? I mean, what does this trade mean to the NHL?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you just said. I think it's a big step. Chicago knows that, like you said, he's ending his career. It's time to get him, hopefully get some capital,
Mm-hmm.
get him out. Um,
Yeah. And then once again, the Blackhawks are perpetually in the rebuild. So they've been in the rebuild since like 2013. It's not ending anytime soon. So here we are shipping off major talents. Do you think that they're going to move Taves before the trade deadline too?
that would shock me. You got to have somebody to kind of build your team around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would kind of be in my opinion, a blockbuster if they did that. If they traded him for somebody, um, just like, just for instance, because I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but you got Washington, doing all these moves, and basically they're keeping Ovechkin just so they have something to keep, to keep a team somewhat intact for fan purposes and stuff like that. So I don't think that they'll get rid of Taves.
Yeah, that would be tough. I mean, that's their 1-2 punch, and so it's like if Kane is definitely gone, Taves probably a stay. I tend to agree with that. I think that if Chicago were to move Taves, they would have to. I mean, they already accumulate. They're already looking to accumulate a ton of draft capital with this trade with Kane, which I think is a hesitation for most teams. That's why New York is, I think, one of the only teams that can pull that off. Um, But yeah, you ship Taves too. You're gonna lose the rest of your ticket sales for the rest of the season.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So so you mentioned Boston. You mentioned or you mentioned the Caps. I bring Boston into it because one of the most convoluted sports trades I think I've ever seen in my life. Dmitry Orlov goes to the Boston Bruins. Washington gets a king's ransom in players. Minnesota gets a bunch of picks, and at the end of the day, Boston ends up with a great second, third line defender and paying 25% of his salary. I I don't know, like, how does it make you feel as somebody who roots for the Eastern Conference? Like, that's just like it's just like they're playing with house money at this point.
Well, it's funny that you say that because it's not even that, that the Capitals did that trade. It's the thing that shocked me is Minnesota. You're a genius. You take you take on 25% of somebody's salary and then you get or cap space and then you get free picks.
Yeah, they got a third and a fifth out of it, I think. Yeah. I
I mean, that
mean,
just came out of nowhere. So
it is what it is. What's surprising to me is that Minnesota's allowing themselves to absorb cap hits like that when they're still pushing for the playoffs. Like Minnesota could potentially be a wild. I mean, I think they're in the first wild card spot in the West right now. So I think that it was strange that they're kind of making that move to add additional pieces. But I mean they got contracts coming up. I don't know. The management of the Minnesota Wild has never been my favorite thing. They are kind of the kings of the let me get in at the last minute and be part of this trade situation because they just did that during another trade as well. I want to say I don't know if it was the Nashville trade, but it was they kind of jumped in as well too, and we're like, let me get a piece of this. Like let's get some of this going. So so that's interesting going on. Moving over to the Western Conference, what everybody came to see, including the stellar Central Division, home of the Colorado Avalanche. We're not talking about the Avalanche yet. We're talking about one of my least favorite teams in the NHL, the St. Louis Blues. Um, they have completely imploded, shipping Tarasenko, shipping O'Reilly, getting basically nothing in return for them. I know they got a couple of picks for O'Reilly, but I mean, still, it's Ryan O'Reilly. He's multiple All Star, probably first, maybe not first ballot, but he's definitely a future Hall of Famer. Ryan O'Reilly with the Toronto Maple Leafs now, and then we just found out today they shipped Barbashev.
yeah, that's the one I was just trying to think of. Yep,
Yep,
Barbashev got shipped.
they sent Barbashev goes to Vegas for nothing for a prospect. So I mean, like, I get it. And then I think probably the most interesting thing is Craig Berube. He goes on TV in a post game and he's like, the team's not playing, the experienced guys, and he's like calling out Jordan Kyrou. He's calling out what Thompson or Thomas, sorry, and he like yeah, he's just basically like the Blues have completely lost the will to win. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, and a head coach that says that kind of stuff isn't going to help anything at all. Uh,
Exactly.
on top of management and everybody shipping, key players away. I mean, that just shows the team that you've basically given up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no. So we're St. Louis Blues. They're in the tank. I know we talk about it a lot on during football season, during NFL. We talk about teams in the tank going for those draft picks. At this point, St. Louis, I mean, do you think Berube stays on as St. Louis's head coach after this season?
That would with all the moves that they made and what he has said, that would really shock me.
I know. So I mean, if it happens, I mean, he's going to be like the quickest coach like in professional sports history to go from like championship season out on your ass. Because I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, what did they win? They won the title in like 2018.
that was to say 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's like St. Louis. I mean, you want to talk about sports cities living in hell, man. That's that they definitely they've had a rough go of it. Um, But anyways, okay, so getting away from St. Louis, staying in the Western Conference, heading on over to the Pac, talking about Edmonton Oilers. Mike Nugent Hopkins, he got his 600th goal, which congratulations to him. I mean, that's a huge. I mean that puts you in a list of about 80 to 90 different players that have reached that goal, and it's huge. But what really kind of messes with my head is that they're still a bubble team. And Edmonton does this. Is like, how do you have so much talent and still consistently underperform? Because it's like they got Draisaitl, they got McDavid, they got Nugent Hopkins is now a 600 goal man. Like, where is the disconnect?
I'm glad you brought that up because I can tell you right now, I think I found one of those disconnects. You play a team like the Penguins today, and they are a bubble team. My Penguins are a bubble team. They're lucky if they squeak into the playoffs at this point. And you don't play Vasilevsky. They lose 7-3. The Penguins just beat them 7-3 just because. Or no, they played Tampa today. Sorry,
I was like, yeah, that's
that
Lesky
was
was
last
Tampa.
week.
Oh, you're good.
They just. I just think that's one of the teams. It's kind of like the Yankees in baseball. You know, you get so many good people on there. Sometimes the chemistry isn't all there.
Mhm.
Draisaitl and McDavid, they have amazing chemistry. Nugent, I think, would fit. You know, I mean, obviously, 600 goals, one of the fastest people to do it. I mean, he's got to have some chemistry with the team. But sometimes, then when you play a team that's really good, they're going to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, and then you're in trouble. Whereas, like we've talked about with um, the Bruins, where you have consistent defense all through the line. If Edmonton played a team like that, you'd be in trouble because you have two good defenders that can be on them all the time.
I was gonna say, and I hate to round about the conversation back to the Avalanche, but we did win a cup with solid defensive play this
Yeah,
last
that's
year,
what it
so,
is.
including a sweep of those same Edmonton Oilers. Um, so yeah, I mean, honestly, I look at Edmonton and I see a lot of flash. I don't see a lot of substance. I see a lot of lacking on defense. I think goaltending has been Markstrom is everyone kind of likes him. I think he's kind of suspect. I think that he's as far as being a proven like I mean he's not going to win a Benzia. Like I mean he's not. I mean he has been a consistent All Star, but I think that it's also just because there's not a lot of great goalies in the Pacific Division. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, I'm not afraid of Edmonton. I see the Avs playing Edmonton in the playoffs. I'm not worried about that series at all. So anywho, all right. Last thing I wanted to touch on, like a feel good story on Lock 22. I know that we like to focus on some of the negatives, but I don't know if you were able to watch the Patrick Marleau jersey retirement over in San Jose. Patrick or what's his name? Joe Thornton gave a very emotional speech about his friend Patrick Marleau. They played many years together, and Marleau is the first Shark ever to have his number retired. So hoorah for him! And because I was just thinking about it, like what other Sharks would go in that category? Like I don't remember like any marquee players playing for the Sharks.
Me neither.
I mean until I mean like now you think about like guys like Joe Pavelski or Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, obviously, Tomas Hurdle is like all right, but like yeah, you think back to it, it's just like Mike Ricci maybe. Like I don't know. Did Sandis Ozolinsh ever play for San Jose? Feel like I've seen him in a Sharks jersey. I don't know. I honestly have no idea like who used to play for that team. I think they were consistently the whipping boy of the NHL. So,
Yeah.
but, but big ups to Marlowe. Congratulations. Big love from across the NHL community. I think that was a huge accomplishment for him. So yeah, we'll see where they go. See if that can propel the Sharks into some momentum here. All right. So news stories aside, talking about our weekly team forecast. So Tom, tell me about your Pens. And you said that they're a potential bubble team. I'm looking at the schedule. You got 3 games this next week. You're at all on the road at Nashville, at Tampa, at Fort Lauderdale to play the Panthers. How do you feel about this next week and the team in general?
I think it's a tough week. Tough week. I mean, Tampa. They play like you said. They play Tampa, then they play Florida. I
Yep,
think
yep.
they play. I thought they squeaked in a game against Nashville in there, but I could be wrong.
Yep, Nashville on the 28th.
Yeah, yeah. So Nashville.
Yeah.
I just watched Nashville play. I mean, they're looking with the way the Penguins are playing right now. They're looking tough. I know that's not saying much, but
and that's big ups to the mighty Central, man. I mean, Nashville, they're not a great team, but they do still have UC Saros. They still have Roman Yossi. Like, yeah, they got a couple of big playmakers. Philip Forsberg, you can never really count out on the wing there. So yeah, I mean, could be an interesting matchup. But yeah, I'm looking at this. At Tampa is always hard. It's always hard to go and win in that barn. But not impossible. And then the Panthers, like what's going on? I mean, like Bobrovsky is still on the team. Aside from that, I don't really know. I think the Panthers are pretty weak.
yeah, I think that was my game that I thought that would win. I think Nashville to me is kind of an iffy game, 50-50 toss up. Tampa Bay, I think, unfortunately, is going to beat us, especially with it being in Tampa. And then Florida, I think the Panthers we have a chance of beating. To me, that one's going to come down to Chuck, how they play, how he plays. Like we talked about a little bit off scene here, is it kind of got reinvigorated after the All-Star game, playing with his brother for the first time. And he's I've watched a couple of games already these past 2 weeks where just like he's playing fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that game's going to kind of boil down to.
I like it. I mean, and Pittsburgh, I mean, you guys still got a lot of talent, man. Sid the Kid. It's hard to count him out, man. Yeah, Nathan McKinnon's best friend and workout buddy. Sidney Crosby, also going to be a Hall of Famer. And I think you're rocking the Evgeny Malkin sweater there. So yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh's got a couple of weapons. So yeah, we'll see how they do.
Can't leave out my man Letang. I mean, got a good defensive.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Big love for the defense, man. Hey, as a Colorado guy, man, I love the defenders. So yeah. So talked about the Pens. Now I get to talk about myself basically and my love for the Avalanche. I'm looking at the calendar this next week, and we got a doozy. We got a doozy of a week. All 4 teams playoff bound. We're playing at home against Vegas, at home against the Devils, on the road against Dallas, and then a back-to-back. We come home after Dallas, play the Seattle Kraken. So I'm looking at it. Some tough games. I think that we should strive for 3-1, but I think 2-2 might be okay. We're also coming off of 5 wins in a row. So I think that we're cranking along. I think as the Avalanche continue to get more healthy, I don't see them making any huge moves. I know we picked up a goalie from Boston, who I can't remember his name. We picked up Jack Johnson from the Blackhawks, third, fourth liners. I don't see us making any blockbuster moves at the trade deadline. And I think that, yeah, we just continue to play our game. We steal 3 of these games this next week. I think we're in a really solid spot. Right now, the Avs are sitting with 3 games in hand in the 3rd place in the Central. So, yeah, we got to catch up to Winnipeg, who we just beat. And then, of course, Dallas, who's leading the division, who we play next Saturday. So, that being said, looking around the entire NHL outside of our teams, and I was on another show on the Lock 22 network, still on, called NFL, where we go through, we pick every single game of the NFL season, and then we talk shit to each other for being consistently wrong all the time. But there's no way we can do that with hockey. There's too many games. So Tom and I talked. We decided we're going to do our 3 locks of the week. So we're going to talk about the 3 games that we're the most excited for, and who do you have in those games. So, Tom, tell me what's your number 1 lock of the week?
My number 1 lock of the week, I'm going to say, is going to be Rangers versus the Flyers on Wednesday.
Rangers and Flyers on Wednesday. So what do you like about this game?
That one I like. The Flyers they're just not playing well as of late. And the Rangers, obviously, we talked, especially if they get, I'm kind of wondering if maybe the Rangers can lock in Patrick Kane like we talked about. Maybe just kind of praying for maybe a debut game, but we'll see. I know that'd be really fast, obviously. But I just think, out of all the games that's coming up this week, like you said, there's a lot of even matches, 50-50 toss-ups, but the Rangers-Flyers, I think for sure, I think the Rangers got that one in the bag.
You think the Rangers got it on lock? Okay, so number 1, Rangers-Flyers, picking the Rangers. And it's funny, my first lock, I picked a Rangers game as well, but the opposite, I'm picking Boston, and on Saturday, Boston, New York, classic rivalry, Rangers Bruins. Boston is so strong. They just added Orlov. They have so many good defenders. They got Pasta, Brad Marchand. Everybody's still shooting lights out. They got great goaltending. Boston, I think, and this is why I'm excited for this game, because maybe the return of Patrick Kane, and it's going to be in Boston against the Bruins. I think it could be a huge matchup, ton of fun to watch, ton of media coverage. With or without Kane, I still think Boston takes it. All right, what's your number 2?
Surprise. Number 2, I am probably going to go with that Sunday, the Devils versus the Coyotes. The Devils have just been on a tear lately.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, probably honestly one of the better teams in the NHL right now as far as streaks are going. They play the Coyotes that Sunday, so I think that's going to be an easy game for them as well.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think it's easy to pick on the poor Arizona Coyotes. But I think that if we're looking at like solid, like who's gonna win, I think that Jersey would really have to they'd really have to mess something up to lose that game.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. It's in Arizona at Sun Devil Stadium that houses 1,500 people. But yeah, it could be an interesting game. But yeah, I think you're right. I think New Jersey takes that one. All right, who is my number 2? Oh, got it. More trade deadline stuff. I'm excited to see players play in different uniforms. You know who else has been quietly making a lot of moves is Vancouver, and they're not like good moves, but they're moves. So they're striving to go from terrible to mediocre, and so they're climbing that ladder. So I want to see the team mentality when you get out there. And also on Saturday, they are playing the juggernaut Toronto Maple Leafs. Now I call them a juggernaut. Ryan O'Reilly and Austin Matthews on the same line. Like holy cow! Like the Toronto is a force to be reckoned with. So my second lock, Toronto over Vancouver on Saturday the 4th. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. A lot of new personnel on both sides, but yeah, at the end of the day, Leafs are just too powerful. So who do you got in your third and final lock, Mr. Tom?
My third and final lock. I think I'm going to jump off the deep end here, and I think I'm going to go with just because it's two teams that don't really get talked about too much as far as positive. We talked about them a little bit earlier. The Blues on Saturday, the Blues play the Kings, and
You
like
know,
we
I
talked,
was looking at this game too, and I was thinking about it. But yeah, go on. Yeah, I want to hear. I want to hear your opinions on this.
and I mean we talked about why. I mean the Blues, they're just in self destruct mode right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean the LA Kings, if they would come out and perform even mediocre, I think that they would. I think that they'll win that game.
I think it's very likely. So we're talking.
And
So
that's at
third
home.
third pick, L.A., St. Louis. Tommy's taking L.A. Not the worst decision. Yeah, I think that any bet against St. Louis at this point is pretty safe. So it falls back to me, and I'm taking a risky pick as well here. But I'm doing this, and I'm calling out our producer James Marvs immediately. Next Sunday, Avalanche Kraken at Ball Arena. Avs are coming off of a tough week. Seattle's winning the Pacific Division. Big game. You know what? Avs are going to stomp that ass. So I'm calling it now. Avalanche 5-1 over Seattle on March 5th.
Oh man, even calling the score.
Calling the score. I'm calling you out, James. So I'm taking Colorado against Seattle.
You know what? If you're going to call a score, then I have to for my third game. I better call
All
the
right.
score.
All right. What does LA put up on St.
I'm going to
Louis?
go LA. I'm going to go 5-1 against the Blues.
5-1 as well. All right.
You said 5-1.
I said 5-1. Yeah.
All right, I better switch it to 4-1. We can't have the same
All right.
score.
4-1. Okay. For continuity purposes. So, all right. So those are kind of the issues around hockey right now. We're talking trade deadline, teams pushing towards the playoffs. There's some great teams. There's some great hockey being played. There's some not so great teams and not great hockey played. Like, is anybody in the world going to be watching the San Jose Habs game on Tuesday? Yeah. So, yeah. So, anywho, the last thing I want to touch on, and viewers, let us know if this is a section that you're a fan of, because of copyright purposes, we cannot show the plays that we're going to discuss, but we can still discuss them and link them in the chat if you want to go check them out. But yeah, we're going to talk about our top plays of the week. Tom, what? Tell me about some of your favorite plays, or your favorite, or some of your favorite plays of this last week.
Well, mine's going to be very simple because it's going to be goalies.
Yes.
There was 4 amazing plays. Quick on a shootout, blocked one with the stick. I always get his name wrong, Sorokov or Sakharov. He also did.
Oh, yeah. Sakharov. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Sakharov. He also had one with this blade of his stick deflected out. And then not DeSmith for the Penguins, but the backup goalie, he had a scorpion block, and then so did Vasilevsky for the Tampa Bay. So just goalie play this week was insane.
That's right.
As far as top plays, in my opinion.
So let me ask you, if you're a fan of goalies, who do you think takes the Venzia this year? Who's our top goalie?
That's a tough one.
It's it's pretty up there. It's hard not to just say Igor Shesterkin again.
Yeah.
Just because he's so good. Like he consistently plays out of his mind. But yeah, I mean, I think UC Saros, we'll see how if Nashville can do anything in the playoffs. I mean, Connor Hellebuck is a mess this year. So Yeah, I wouldn't really count him in too much. And then, my poor Avalanche. I mean, Georgiev is a functional goaltender, but he's certainly not winning any any awards anytime recently. Okay. So my top plays, and I had two of them, and not goalies, but a forward, the same forward. His name Dylan Cousins, plays for the Buffalo Sabres, and two massive game-winning goals over this last week. Definitely check them out here. We got Dylan Cousin capitalizing with a big overtime winner against Washington, and then we got that like John Elway pass from Darlene to to Cousins, which was another game winner. And yeah, so I'd say if you get two game winning goals in 1 week, I think that's definitely worth note with the same guy, especially in a team like Buffalo where they are kind of perpetually struggling as well. So those are my two favorites. We're talking about some good goalie play. Yeah.
Really quick, while you went back to goalies, I was just looking up real quick to see if I could answer the question a little bit better. Right now, I'm looking at goals against in the whole NHL, both divisions. Right now, the least team would be the Bruins. So, in my opinion, the person that should get it would be Olmark.
Olmark, who also scored a goal yesterday.
Yeah.
He's the 13th goalie in NHL history to put a tally up. Yeah, so Olmark, yeah, I know because we just picked up Olmark's backup with the Avs. So yeah, I think that honestly, it's tough because it's hard to reward a goalie when they sit behind such a solid defense.
Right.
And Boston has that. That Boston has an absolutely out of control defense. But yeah, like goals against, shutouts percentage, like I mean, all that stuff it matters. You have to use stats to register at some point or the other. So yeah, it could be Olmark.
Right now, it's saying his save percentage is 94%, two shutouts. So, I mean,
Two shutouts. I mean, that's enough. You really only need 3 to 4 in a season to get a Venzia. So it's good for him.
yeah, it's looking like a good one there. So,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What I was like think about is it's like the playoffs are the real true test of players when it comes to award season. I think it's just like that's one of the nice things is they wait till the end of the playoffs so you get to see how they perform under pressure as well. So I think that's a huge part of it.
well, sure, because if they get eliminated first round of the playoffs, then
Right. Right, yeah. If it's like game 7 and your goalie like lets the other team drop 8 goals, then yeah, it's like yeah. Was he really the best goalie of the year if he did something like that? Oh, anywho, all right. So that's about all we have for our first inaugural episode of Puck University. Tom, do you have anything else you want to add or discuss before we take a break from our viewership here?
no, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot. Like Gobo said here, it's our inaugural episode here. So any information, any critique, we welcome. We're here for you guys, so we just want to make the best show that we possibly can. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely. And during the show, you'll probably see some promos pop up for the other amazing shows coming up on Lock 22. All kinds of different stuff. There's something for everybody. So regardless of what you're into, if you're into wrestling, if you're into football, if you're into comic books, like we got a show for you on Lock 22. So thank you so much for joining us. Go hockey, get out there, see those games, buy these amazing, very expensive sweaters, and keep the sport that we love going. Sending you off for Puck University. I'm Gobo. With me as always, Tommy Mitchell.
Thanks for joining and thanks for viewing.
All right, guys.
Puck you.
Puck #Puck you. Have a great night, everybody.